If I don't just love being in the presence of God, then I don't have anything. That's the whole ball of wax. If the kingdom is not what your focus is bringing the kingdom of God to heaven, from heaven down to earth, if that's not your focus, then you're going to find other ways to make yourself feel successful. What's funny is I don't even feel like I was chasing success at church. I felt like I was chasing fulfillment at church, but the way I was measuring it were in like these success metrics of how many people did we get to come to Easter service. The lesson he's teaching me is that it's not that you have to merge them back together. That's how we think about things as entrepreneurs. We're problem solvers. How do I put the pieces together is what we're always thinking. Or what piece is missing? What can we add to make these work? And I feel like God's saying that's the wrong question. What I need you to ask is, what do you want? What do you want me to do, God? I'll tell you what to do. You don't have to figure all that out. I'll let you use your brain, don't worry. But start with me.
Well, Jake, welcome to the podcast, man. So glad to see you again. It's been actually years since we've seen each other. We reconnected at a faith-based entrepreneur type program, and I'm excited to hear more about your program, kind of what you're doing. And for those that don't know Jake Jordan, Jake, tell us who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah, thanks, Richey. Good to see you too. It's fun who you run across when you're an entrepreneur, in particular, because you you go in different circles and meet different people, and are always trying to find connections, and so that's fun. And who I am is I'm Jake Jordan. I'm married. I have 5 kids. I've grown up in Dallas-Fort Worth, and I love helping other men who are leaders. And that's kind of the journey I've been on. And so, I'm remarried. I've got a mixed family, blended, and so that's come with some fun stuff as well, and taught me some lessons I didn't know I needed to learn. I've been probably, I would say, on 3 different tracks in my career. I started out in entrepreneurship and real estate with my parents, and then I moved into ad agency. And was part of 3 different ad agencies, and was a CMO in all those roles. And so kind of learned the stuff that you learn in 10 years there. And then it's kind of been in decades for me. It's been really interesting. My 20s, I did one thing. My 30s, I did one thing. And then in my 40s, I've been a business advisor, and came out of that and was just enjoying solving bigger problems that I was seeing in ad agency. I kind of rolled into a more, I'd say, traditional advisory role. So, and
what
along the way,
what does your business advisory look like? Walk me through
currently currently I can tell you what it is, but it's going to be something different, which is kind of where I want to talk more about as we go forward. But traditionally it's been, I've helped CEOs take whatever it is that they're doing and just kind of find what's been in their way. A very traditional, I would say, strategic advisory role. And so that's gotten me on some boards, advisories, and things like that, just because I like looking at the big picture. Mm-hmm. But over the years, I have continued to find that we can go in and we can look at sales, marketing, operations, and figure out where the gaps are. And there's lots of people that do that, and it's great. And I love the work. And I've always kind of been faith forward when it comes to that. But it's turning more into a faith first sort of model, where I don't really even talk about business until they're ready to talk about business. We talk about faith and calling and assignment, and understanding what is it that God's uniquely equipped you to do in this season, in this region, with the people that are already around you, and starting with the ministry. And I mean, that is such a upside down version of how you're taught to be an entrepreneur, where you don't worry about the clients and the money. You worry about what God wants you to see.
So before we jump into that, I want to know about what happened. Was there an encounter that you had that you can go back and you can point to, work? I was focused this way, and then
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden there's a shift in my life, because you don't just move from business to a faith first advisory role.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Something had to happen in your life to give you an encounter. So
Yeah.
tell me about that.
Yeah. I mean, a few things really. I feel like that God has uh, kind of like the Israelites in the Old Testament. He'll sit there and he'll say, "Are you ready? Are you ready yet? I'm right here.
Mm,
We can move forward. Or you can just keep going around that mountain." And I did a lot of mountain circling, and figuring lessons out the hard way. And so an example of that would be, as I was in real estate with my parents, and we did well and had fun and enjoyed those times. I figured out real estate wasn't really what was driving me. It was helping people grow, and God was
mm,
showing me, hey, there's a way in which I can help you have a career, and that you're actually doing something meaningful and fulfilling, not just going out and trying to make money. And that's actually part of my testimony of coming back to Christ. Actually, is that having everything and feeling completely empty, which is not uncommon for a lot of people who lead things, that they rush and pursue that. So that might be another story for another day. But essentially, that's what brought me back into the fold with Christ. And but then as I went into my 30s, like you said, I went into ad agency, and I thought, I could go in and we could try and work with companies that are faith based and help them grow sales and marketing. And that was good. But what happened was, over the years, I just became really jaded.
mm.
Everyone was chasing metrics. Everyone was chasing attention. Everyone was chasing the next revenue goal. I just didn't really feel like I was doing much good for anybody other than just making them money, which by itself really means nothing. Um, and so as I was trying to figure out what my next steps were, when I was somewhere in the 37, 38, 39 range, and I was going, I think I'm done with ad agency, but I really have no idea what's next. I was also on the heels of a divorce. So that was all going on around that same time. And I was also in church transition, trying to figure out what was going on in my faith, what was really important about having a relationship with Jesus. And I grew up very conservative, so I had a lot of practice in church, a lot of ritual in church, and just
So you
still felt like I was trying to figure it out.
grew up a Christian, and then things, you just kind of drifted away, and now you're
Yeah,
having
yeah,
a move back to God's kind of wooing you back to Him.
that's right. That's right. That's right. I grew up a really good churchgoer, and I went to Abilene Christian, and so I learned how to study the Bible, and then I was a deacon, and then I was on staff at a church actually
Mm.
for a few years as a communications pastor, and so I was doing all the church stuff, and I got stuff out of it. It's not like it wasn't helpful and it wasn't good. It's just um, much like my work life, my church life, they mirrored each other, and that I was trying to achieve. I was trying to hit the next benchmark. I was trying to hit the next title. Um,
So even in your church life, even in your working at the church, you found
mhm.
yourself trying to achieve certain levels of success.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Because I mean, if the kingdom is not what your focus is bringing the kingdom of God to heaven, from heaven down to earth, if that's not your focus, then you're going to find other ways to make yourself feel successful. What's funny is I don't even feel like I was chasing success at church. I felt like I was chasing fulfillment at church, but the way I was measuring it were in like these success metrics of how many people did we get to come to Easter service? How many, how many new programs did we launch around this subject we're passionate about? How many, like, it was always these things that were they actually transforming people from the inside out? Yes, because God does that despite us, right? But
Yeah.
um, so that's what I mean. I was trying to be successful in church, not create connection and usher in transformation. And in my heart, I feel like I was doing the right things too. So I wasn't even like chasing something out of a bad intent. It's just I didn't have all the information. I don't think, or I was just too stubborn to see what was right there in front of me. That people need
That's
people.
powerful. Chasing, I mean, even in the church environment, we can move. We don't stop being human. So especially those that are driven by success. And a lot of times the root of that success, what you just said, was a fulfillment, a deeper
Mm-hmm.
issue. And even though we're doing the good things, we're sharing the gospel, or we're working in a church and doing good things, it ultimately, our heart posture is not in the right place. We're not we're not worshiping God for who he is, and then wanting out of the overflow of our heart, we just do ministry. So I think that's in a lot of cases, whether or not you're in the marketplace or you're in church, if you're not
Mm-hmm.
spending time with God, and then out of your ministry with him, you're overflowing and doing
Mm-hmm.
ministry
Mm-hmm.
wherever you are, we become jaded. I know I've
That's
been
right.
there. So
That's right.
you're preaching to the choir.
Yeah. Yeah. Preaching to myself still.
Well,
Yep. Yep.
it's a daily choice. It's a daily choice to follow Jesus and say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, God, I'm going to follow you today. I'm giving my life over to you today. I actually have a thing on my calendar that says, do you surrender today? And I'm like,
Mm.
every day I have to click it. And so
Yeah.
I haven't gotten to the point where I just
That's good.
click it just to click it. I still have to stop and go, okay, I surrender. And then I repeat it and declare it out
Mm.
every day,
That's good. That's good.
because I need that reminder.
We all do. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah. So I would say I was chasing all that, right? Success on both sides. And I just got to a point where when divorce is tough, that really gutted me. And there's not just the spouse as part of the divorce. There's the kids and how the kids
Mm,
come out of it and whatnot. And so I was learning some things about being a child myself of God by watching what my kids were going through a divorce. And so um, and there was a lot of pain there, from the church side too, where that I was heavily involved in church, and then all of a sudden I was an outcast at church because I was a divorced guy. So it really drove me back to a place to go, what is my faith really anchored in? If I had to say one thing for the rest of my life, what does my faith mean to me? And I went through like a obituary exercise where you write about what you did in your life and what people would say about you and what would say in your headstone. And I did some different things like that in that process, and went through some therapy and did some things. And really what at the end stood out to me was that if I don't just love being in the presence of God, then I don't have anything. That's the whole ball of wax. And even this morning with my wife after Bible study, we were talking about the whole thing is Jesus. Like it's like I had rich friends when I was young, and these rich friends would have all these cool things they could offer, and like trips and suites at the Rangers and Stars game, and big pool in their backyard, and awesome kitchen full of food. And like the kids would naturally be like, I pick my friends carefully because I don't want friends that just want my stuff. And so I've never been someone who's geeks out on celebrities, or like I just don't care about any of that. Like it doesn't bother me. And maybe because I worked for the Mavericks for years and things like that when I was younger. But point being, like I just never saw them as anything else other than a person. And so I had rich friends that would lavish me with all this cool stuff because they knew I was their friend. But then there's these other friends that would be like, oh, I wonder if we can get invited to this because that's gonna be whatever. I was like, that just reminds me of how God probably feels about us sometimes. Is like, I just want you to be my friend because I
mm,
love you more than anyone. And I can give you all these lavish gifts, but that's not what it's about. It's about you and me knowing each other. Um, and so, like to your point, what you said, if you have that ministry with God, then everything else becomes so much clearer and so much simpler and so much more peaceful. And that's the point God brought me to through this process, and met my new wife, and um, shifted my advisory to a much more faith forward advisory. And now I think once again I'm finally catching up to what he's been trying to teach me now for about 3 years, about what that looks like, what business looks like, secular sacred divide that does not exist in God's eyes.
right. Doesn't. So talk me through your experience with coaching, advising CEOs,
Mm-hmm.
not just from filling the gaps, but now with advising them from faith first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. I think God was trying to teach me a lesson back before I understood that He wanted me to lead with the ministry, and be a good listener to understand where people were hurting. I was learning that lesson on a traditional sales path in my early 40s, in that the best coaches are willing to ask really tough questions very early on because they care. And there's a lot that goes into that. There's a lot to talk about there. But as he was teaching me, I just need you to ask the question I give in the moment, because that's the one that's going to matter. It doesn't matter if it sounds like a good question. Ask this question. Um, that's what I was kind of learning to do, and I think he was prepping me for the work to understand. Um, Leaders in particular are typically lonely because they're the one that is bearing all the weight of all the people underneath them. It's not like they don't have friends. It's just there's not a lot of other people around who carry what they carry.
Right.
And so when you can get someone who cares for your soul, actually cares for the person, and ask questions that are hard to say, how are you dealing with this part though? Like, I know you need money. I know your employees are driving you crazy. Anybody can ask you that. But like, how's your house? Like, do your kids like you?
Right.
Um, or when you get in the morning, do you care more about going and looking at your calendar, or going and talking to your employees to see how their day's going, how it's starting, how you can help them? Like, where's your heart at? Like you said, heart stance. And what I have found over and over is that's what's missing for a lot of those guys who are kingdom builders, who are Christians, who run these just standard marketplace organizations. That's the part they're hungry for. And there's a lot of good organizations out there that do things around that. You've got your C12s and your um, all the acronyms, all the different ones.
Mm-hmm.
there's a bunch of them, but that there's just not a lot of opportunity out there for people to have a friend like that, to have a coach like that, and to have someone who, if we can get that right, then their brain can actually function, right, and they
Mm-hmm.
can see what's in front of them, and then they can make decisions out of love and out of their own callings and assignments. Because if you have that tension and you have no one to help you do it, you can't make the best decisions. It's like it's
So
anybody else in life.
how do you how does a business leader separate his business, or actually the better question is how do you bring it back together? Because it's easy to
Mm,
separate and go, I've got my
yeah.
business life, I've got my church life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Church, yeah, I may serve there, I give there, I love Jesus. I'll tell people about Jesus every now and then, maybe when it comes up, or
Yeah.
maybe I'll live
Yeah.
my life, and maybe people will see me living my life a certain way, and they'll ask me. But honestly, that's never really happened. I'm playing, I'm
Yeah.
playing um,
Yeah. Devil's
the
advocate.
typical leader. How do
Yeah.
you merge that back together?
Mm-hmm. So the lesson he's teaching me is that it's not that you have to merge them back together. That's how we think about things as entrepreneurs. We're problem solvers. How do I put the pieces together is what we're always thinking. Or what piece is missing? What can we add to make these work? And I feel like God's saying that's the wrong question. He's saying, what I need you to ask is, what do you want? What do you want me to do, God? I'll tell you what to do. You don't have to figure all that out. I'll let you use your brain. Don't worry. But start with me. Right.
Mm,
And so an example of that would be, um, yeah, like, how do I live my life as a Christian and show people Christ as the leader? Right. The standard pat answers, which are correct, but I think they're incomplete, is, host a Bible study that's optional at your work at 7 or 8 a.m. for people who want to come. Great. That's a great thing to do. Nothing wrong with that. That doesn't actually do anything more than create an activity for people to go engage in, which is Christian based. Great.
hmm
Awesome. But what did you do this morning before you left the house? If you can get that right, it will flow out of you. You don't have to do anything. And I think what that's so hard for leaders and entrepreneurs and high productivity people in general, like us, is it doesn't feel like enough. It doesn't feel like we're doing enough if we're just showing up for God and expecting God to show up for us. And the follow up question I always get to that is, great, okay, let's say, yeah, I agree with you. I'm going to go show up and I'm going to ask God what He wants me to do today, and I'm going to listen and I'm going to obey. No matter how weird it sounds, I'm going to go show up and do that. Well, question two is, then what do I do when I get to the office? Okay, I've done that. It's like, well, you do what He asks you to do when you get to the office, and then He shows you something else to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's how a relationship works, right? And so I think we have such a hard charging, I need the next 6 steps, and I need an anchor and a goal for the end of the quarter that we back into steps and tasks. Like, those are all fine, but that's not how the relationship with God works. Once He gives you something, then you can go build those things. But we are so quick to say yes to God and run away and not talk to Him for a week and think we've have a relationship with God. Yeah. We know Him, but I don't think we have. That's not a relationship. And so it's a really hard thing to grasp if you've never done it, and it's a really hard thing to grasp if you've done it both, because He's God and we're not.
That's so good. And that's actually what drove me to get interested in marketplace ministry in the first place, because it was easy. Once I truly, gave my work over to the Lord and began to minister to Him first, it became easy to do ministry within, not just do ministry. So not just do ministry, but also, like, he gave me ideas to in the business. He gave me things to pray for. He gave me wisdom and understanding different on how to do things. So it was the time that I spent actually, I love that song that says, "This is how I fight my battles." And it truly is. The worship goes before the fighting, and it actually goes before the wisdom that he gives you. So as we begin to just start our day with worship and prayer, like intentional time, right? So you've done this process with some leaders. Do you have any examples of this working?
Oh, yeah. It's incredible, because it's never the way you think it would work, which is how you know it's God. I've got a friend that owns a pool company, and they service pools and do stuff like that. He's doing very well by standards of pool owners. He's doing great. And I met him through a friend at an event, and just started talking about one of my on-ramps for business, if you will, which sounds silly when you hear what it is, but is I take guys to go do Solitude for 3 hours, because most guys either don't know how to do it or won't put it on their calendar or never even considered doing it. And I'll just take guys out to like White Rock Lake or Lake Grapevine or whatnot. And then I just give them a little super simple guide to say, hey, I'm going to be here with you, but we're not going to talk. We're going to go both be alone with the Lord together. And here's some starters if you need it. And I did that twice with this friend of mine. And the first time he fell asleep and nothing really happened, he said. And I was like, okay, well, you hung out with the Lord. The win is that you showed up and you wanted to be with the Lord. That's the win. That's Solitude. Right. And then the second time he came back, he told me a really lengthy, deep story about lack of joy and just always feeling like that he could never get to joy. Like it was just almost right there, and he could just never quite reach it, and he could see it, and he saw it in other people. And this second time, he just surrendered to the moment of this solitude, and God just washed over him, just covered him with joy. And he came out just teary and weepy and was like, I get it. I haven't had this feeling in probably 10 years, and like all this really cool stuff. Right. And what happened as a result of that is because he was in a space now that he could relax he told me that in the next 2 weeks, they had solved these two massive problems in their businesses of just like stalled outness in these two areas of their business that they had been struggling with for about 5 years, and they just could not figure out what was going on. And it's like, he's
Come
like, I
on.
just let go, and the answers came. He's like,
Wow.
finally, God was like, finally, you'll let me help you, you know? And man, I've been doing this particular version of this for about 3 years. Once a quarter, there's a massive breakthrough like that. And then every week, it's like, I did this and this happened, and I met this person. I've been looking for somebody to do this for a year, and I just met them randomly. They were sitting next to me in a booth and heard me talking and came over to my booth. Like it's
Let's go.
that divine stuff you can't explain.
Yeah.
That entrepreneurs and leaders go, yeah, but I need to measure it. I need to go right, and you can't put God in a box like that. Yeah, but it happens. He solves business problems because you come to him with a contrite heart, an open heart, a humble heart, and you are desperately seeking his presence, not his answers, but his presence. Just show me who you are. Just show me who you are.
I love that story. So, what other areas are you teaching and training your clients in?
Yeah, and so my background is in communications. I was a broadcast journalism major. I did TV, radio when I came out of Abilene Christian. I've been a podcaster for many years. All those are skills I learned about how to connect with people, how to listen well, how to ask good questions. Kind of goes into the coaching, and then how to create communication plans that are based on those principles, listening well and addressing the things that people are actually asking, not what you want to sell them, things like that. Mm-hmm. So what ends up happening is I help these guys get clear, really just get loose and underneath the Lord's yoke instead of the world's. And then things free up, and now they're able to actually turn around and say the things they want to say. So I end up actually helping doing two things most of the time right now. And like I said, this is kind of in transition, so it's going some new places. But over the past 3 years, it's been I help them find new partners, like channel partners. And so if they can be themselves and understand that what the calling is, because of that freedom, makes it a whole lot easier to have a conversation with someone else in the marketplace, in the ecosystem, to go, hey, I'm really just looking to accomplish this in the kingdom, and we can't figure this part out. It looks like you guys may have figured that part out. Should we talk about partnering up? Right. Yeah. So we create a whole revenue kind of channel between them. As a lot of people talk about referrals. Referrals are onesie twosies. This is collaboration in a market that already has your customers, and these people have their trust already. So that's one area that I help them find relationships, reach out for new relationships, create content across channels for each other's audiences. I've got one group right now that is a tax group that does tax planning and strategy. Great Kingdom guys. And we're putting them in to teach tax strategy to real estate investors and oil and gas investors, because if they do well, they need tax help. And so it's a natural fit, right? So we're not marketing, we're offering value to a group that will need us, right? And so
you're using
that's a big part.
Your marketing skills and your communication skills to create value that they may have seen or know how to do. They're used to accounting. I'm going to count the numbers, right. And then you're going to bring your communications background to open up a whole new market for them. I love it.
That's right. Yeah, that's a big piece of what I do. Yep. And then some of the shift has been, it would be really easy to go in and build systems and processes and sequences and hire people and train people, and that's all part of the process. But a lot of what I feel like the Lord is moving, and at least in my advisory, is that this should be based on relationship and connection, not based on what can make you the most money. Because the right relationships will move my kingdom forward. Worldly relationships could bring you a lot of money and no fulfillment, and broken relationship later because it was just about the money. So we actually even weigh and pray over the relationships that we should take and shouldn't take as part of that kind of advisory process. So it's bringing God into every aspect of that, Um, and then the second part is, I've been kind of working on this process of teaching people to listen. And I'm writing a book about it right now. And I've got a little private, podcast that only goes to about 10 people who are friends of mine, where I just say the ideas out loud to prompt me to keep writing about these ideas. And that came from, I've done some pretty super high level sales training and been a sales trainer of sales trainers at this point in my career now. And what the thing I found over and over is you can learn a lot of really great principles about active listening and whatever the popular vernacular is for the day for salespeople. But if you didn't actually try to understand where people were in their walk in life today, and try and empathize with what their day is doing to them, and make a connection of sorts, then it really you could sell things, but not gain any real confidence or trust from the person you're across from. Right. And so just that slight shift to, I see you and I understand the pain, and there's a lot going on there. Let's just sit in that as long as you want to. Right. Because if you do that, the sale comes.
It's truly the most powerful sales technique of all is listening and understanding.
It is.
You may not have the right product or the service, and just sending them on to the right, to someone else actually will bring you more business.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. So I'm writing the book not just for salespeople. It started that way, but God was like, this isn't for salespeople. This is for people who want to see other people the way I see them. Wow. And so the working title is How to See People. And then the subtitle is The Way Jesus Does.
Okay. Well, how do people get in touch with you? How do they book your advisory work if they're interested in booking you?
Yeah, and the beauty is I don't take new clients right now, so you don't. There's no pressure. So you can come check out my website if you want. It's a shell right now. It's impactoverattention.com. I'm getting ready to redo that because I've got a new kind of initiative around the verse and a lamp unto my feet, light unto my path. So I'm shifting to like a lamplight theme and guiding. So I think that'll change soon. But I would say find me on LinkedIn and go to my website, impactoverattention.com, and I'll always be reachable at those spots.
And LinkedIn, Jake Jordan?
Just / Jake Jordan, yep.
All right. Well, Jake, this has been amazing. Do you have any last words of wisdom that you want to share?
Don't be afraid to go ask the Lord about anything. He's so good at being a leader. He's so good at being an entrepreneur. He's so good at being a king, and he has all the right answers. So start there.
That's amazing. Well, thanks so much, Jake. And I'll probably see you around town. We definitely keep running into each other. So this has been great.
That's right. Thanks, Richey. Appreciate you.